fun begins.
Welcome to the Force Pod. I'm your host, John Royce. I want to thank you guys for rejoining me on the Force Pod. I know it's been a few months since I've recorded a show, and I hope to make it as exciting as possible for you guys. A couple of quick show notes. Going forward, the show is going to be a bi-weekly show, so every other week, and I'm going to keep it to about an hour. In the past, I think I tried to overdo it, having 2-hour plus shows and doing it once a week. It was just way too much for me. But I invite you guys to call in and leave voicemail. The voicemail call-in line is 315-320-6337. Again, 315-320-6337. Or you can shoot the show some email at show@theforcepod.net. Again, show@theforcepod.net. And the phone number again is 315-320-6337. The show is available on iTunes, Google, and Stitcher, and I invite you guys to listen to it, rate, and review them. On iTunes, for every 10 reviews, I'm going to choose one actual reviewer and give them a prize. I'm not sure of the prize yet. Might be a Funko, might be a book, but it's going to be something. So for every 10 reviews, one of the reviewers is going to be chosen. Same is going to be done on Facebook. As long as you guys like and follow Facebook, the Force Pod on Facebook, one of the 10 liked or whatever is going to be given a gift. Again, Funko, book, could be something. I'm not sure yet. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Force Pod. Again, at the Force Pod. One thing about leaving a voicemail or email is I'm not going to tolerate any of the isms being included in them. Whether it's racism, ageism, or sexism, if your email or voicemail include it, it's going to be immediately deleted. It's not going to be read on air or listened to. This show is about love for the series, and I mean, if you have constructive criticism, great, I'm all for it. Let's talk about it, leave it, and if I think it's a great criticism, might call you up and we'll discuss it on air, but I will not tolerate none of the isms. And now it's time for the news. And first up in the news is no news. That's right, I'm talking about Solo. Well, there's rumors of a trailer dropping during Super Bowl, and honestly, I just don't think that's going to happen. Disney's not going to spend a reported $126,000 a second on a 3-minute trailer during a Super Bowl for a movie that's already hemorrhaging money. So I just don't see it. Other than that, in Solo news, we do have some actual news. AMC Theaters announced this week that we will be seeing 3 planets in the movie Solo. That being, one of which being Corellia, which I kind of expected being Han's home world. Second being Kessel, which again, we kind of knew that because of the pictures that Ron Howard posted and what is presumably a mine in Kessel. And third is Minbam. For those of you that have not read the books Splinter of the Mind's Eye, that is the only place where that planet has ever appeared in the expanded universe. And honestly, it's been so long since I've read the book because, well, I don't like the book, that, I don't know much about the planet. And I didn't really research it before the show because, as I said, the only place it's ever been, it has been in Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And what I recall of the book, it was horrible. So as I said, not a lot, really, there's no real news for Solo, no trailer news, nothing like that, just speculation. This just in, it's been announced that the Han Solo trailer will be broadcast on Good Morning America on the Monday following the Super Bowl. That's right. It's not going to appear during the Super Bowl, which I didn't think it would. It's going to appear on Good Morning America on February the 5th. That is a Monday. So I'm not exactly sure where everybody got the whole Super Bowl idea from. I mean, it's a great idea, but it's not based in reality, and as I just announced, it will be appearing on Good Morning America. But I should say that the one trailer that did drop this week was the trailer for the series finale of Rebels. Now, aside from the fact that I think the trailer was about 2 minutes too long, the first 2 minutes we really didn't need to see. Well, those of us that have actually watched the show know what's going on. We really didn't need the whole recap bit, but the final 2 minutes or whatever it was, now that was really impressive. There was a lot of things in it that I really did not expect to see. The first of which was Mortis. When we last saw Mortis, it was during the Clone Wars, and Anakin visited the planet and encountered the father, the son, and daughter, and we got a preview of Vader. What Mortis is going to do for Rebels, and what I think for Ezra, because, well, I'll get into that later, but I think Mortis is there more for Ezra than anything else. What they're going to do, I really can't say, but it's really cool that they're including them. The other thing that I saw that I really liked is the fact that we get to see Palpatine. He finally makes his appearance in Rebels, and from the sounds of it, it appears that he's been chasing Ezra, or at least following his exploits through the series, which is not really surprising considering he eliminated pretty much all of the Force users. So, you know, when a kid pops up and there's reports of him using the Force, and even when you send Lord Vader there to defeat him and Vader fails, that would kind of like pique his interest. So I'm really excited to see what Palpatine is going to do. And the third and final thing we saw of relevance in the trailer was, it appears that Kanan visited Galactic Supercuts. That's right, he got a haircut and a shave, and Hera didn't sound too pleased about that. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting end of the series. I don't like the way they're spacing it. We're getting, 3 episodes per night? So basically, we're only going to get Rebels for 3 more nights, leading up to the series conclusion that's going to run an hour and a half. I'm really excited to see how everyone, what's a good way to say this, how everyone dies or goes away. Because let's face it, Kanan, he has to die. He appears to be fully embracing his Jedi self, and from what Yoda said in the original trilogy, when he dies, last of the Jedi will Luke be. And so that means that Kanan, he has to go. I know, it's sad, and I know once that the episode drops where he cuts his hair and all that, we're probably going to see hashtags for Hot Kanan and whatnot. So some people will be sad that he's going, but it has to happen. As far as Ezra, that's hard to say. We know in the trailer that I don't know if Palpatine is actually there or it's a hologram, but we do know that he communicates with Palpatine. And it shows him igniting the lightsaber. Now, that could be an editing trick just to lead us down a certain path and it turns into something else. I really can't say, but somehow Ezra has to turn away from the ways of the Jedi. Whether it's death or he could possibly become an Inquisitor. Palpatine may actually turn him. But somehow he has to go off the Jedi path in order for the Last Jedi to be Luke. Since I'm on the topic of Rebels, I'll go on to what I think what's going to happen to the rest of the characters. I think Zed is going to die, and I think Zed is going to die defending Kanan. Now, in the series, they were introduced as a pair in the beginning, kind of like Han and Chewie. So I think that Zed is going to die defending his friend, or die trying to get vengeance for his friend. Sabine, that's really the only question mark in my head. Does she die while wielding that groovy green lightsaber we see in the trailer? Or does she simply go back off to Mandalore and rules as Mandalore? I really can't say. I mean, in previous episodes, it kind of steers it to where she's going to lead the Mandalorians. So, but that'll be an interesting arc to follow. Hera, we know Hera lives. We know Chopper lives. At least they both live until after the events of Rogue One. So, I mean, that's pretty much answered. And how they left the cliffhanger as Hera was imprisoned, I thought that was kind of, that really wasn't a good cliffhanger because we know that she lives. So there's nothing really there to build suspense off of. But that's pretty much how I see the crew of Rebels going, with Kanan dying, Ezra turning or dying, Zed dying, Sabine ruling as Mandalore, Hera and Chopper living. And finally, in news, EA Sports EA, which is Electronic Arts, the gaming company, announced this week that they have missed their income expectations. Apparently, they only sold 9 million copies of Battlefront 2 instead of the 10. I know, big drop in sales. A lot of that was speculated to be because of the whole microtransaction fiasco. And it's also being reported that Disney is re-evaluating their relationship with EA because of this. Time will tell as far as that goes. A exclusivity contract was signed between EA and Disney. Hopefully, Disney comes to their senses and breaks the contract and starts awarding games to other companies, because I, for one, would love to see a standalone Star Wars game. And as we all know, EA is not big on standalone games because they don't generate the kind of profits that multiplayer games do. And that concludes the news on this week's Force Pod. I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to get deep with Star Wars politics.
It's the new Star Wars lightsaber from Kenner. Inflation required, batteries not included. You can pretend you have powers when you switch on Kenner's Star Wars lightsaber.
Ready to feel the Force? Yeah! Switch on your Star Wars lightsabers, close your eyes and go! I got it! Me too! Zap! You passed the test! The Force is with you!
The Star Wars lightsaber, new from Kenner. Balloons not included.
New Star Wars The Force Awakens toys and action figures are here!
Cool!
Are you ready to bring the adventure of the Star Wars universe into your home?
The Force is with us!
And us.
Yeah, us too!
New action figures and playsets for ages 6 and up.
Way up!
Battle the evil Kylo Ren.
I'm gonna get you in my lightsaber.
Or leave it in the box!
Stormtroopers, attack!
Or leave them in the box and never touch them!
All your favorite Star Wars heroes and villains.
I have Rey and Finn.
I have 3 of each. 1 to display, 1 to open, and 1 just in case.
Why?
Non-stop Star Wars action, like Chewbacca with clip-on forest armor.
Time to suit up!
Or just look at him! Radical!
Launch into hyperspace with battle action Millennium Falcon with real movie sounds.
It's completely movie accurate! No, what are you doing? That's not how it lands. It goes...
You control the Force. You control the action.
They don't fight like that.
Yeah, just like Darth Vader.
Doug Vader?
The power's in your hands.
Does your wife like toys too?
Collect them all, and the fun never stops. Star Wars: The Force Awakens action figures, each sold separately for children and adult collectors.
Star Wars!
And welcome back to the Force Pod. I appreciate you coming back. And as I alluded to before the break, I'm going to get a little political now. Well, not really, but this is basically directed to those fans that say Star Wars has been apolitical from the start, and politics has never played any part of Star Wars. In my blog post, I basically explained how the Empire was strongly modeled upon Nazi Germany. How many of the moves that Palpatine made were modeled on the moves that Hitler made, and how they both rose to power in the same manner. I mean, the uniforms themselves of the Empire are, just throw a swastika on the uniform and they become a Nazi. But there are those fans that say George Lucas never wanted politics as a part of Star Wars. I mean, the political narrative of Star Wars itself is rooted in history. How a republic beset by complacency, naivety, and wars withers away into tyranny. Lucas was animated not by the Soviet Union or Nazism itself, but something much, much closer to home. Lucas was quoted as saying, it was really about the Vietnam War and the period where President Nixon was trying to run for a second term, which got him thinking historically in how democracies get turned into dictatorships. Because democracies aren't overthrown, they're given away. Lucas rolled out his prequel trilogy around the same time as the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. In one of the installments, he even had the future Darth Vader declare, "If you're not with us, then you are my enemy." That echoing the "with us or against us" rhetoric that then President George W. Bush liked to say. It seemed that Lucas was aligning the imperial impulse in American politics with the evil Sith. And one of the things that really amazes me about some of the Star Wars fans is they've actually embraced the rhetoric and the actions of the Empire when they've compared them to real life events. The blowing up of a planet in order to strike fear in the hearts of rebels, the ruling of the elite, of men only, of white men. They're actually embracing it, and it's sick because it's not what George Lucas had in mind when he wrote the movies. The rebels were supposed to be like independent-minded freedom fighters fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy, and now we're seeing fans embracing the Empire and wanting it almost to be reversed to where Palpatine rules with his cadre of white old men ruling, where aliens are enslaved or killed outright. It just boggles my mind. It's like, where do they come up with this thinking? Why are you even Star Wars fans? You're missing the whole point. Star Wars is about inclusion of everyone, of all races, all beings, all sexes. I just don't get, especially this whole backlash with Haldo, being whether she was bisexual or homosexual, I don't know. I know it was in a book, and I didn't read the book, but I will. But the whole backlash about that, and too many women in commanding roles in The Last Jedi. It's like, are you serious? We're watching a civilization that's supposed to be far more evolved than ours, and they kind of got past that. That's like Neanderthal thinking that only men rule, and women are meant to be in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant, as the old saying goes. That's just an archaic way of thinking. It's stupid. And excluding races because they're different than us. That's just not what Star Wars is all about. That's not what George Lucas had in mind. That's not what George Lucas wanted. He envisioned a galaxy of everyone getting together, living in harmony. And the Empire didn't want that. That's why the Empire was the evil bad guy. And that's why he ultimately wrote about the Empire being destroyed and harmony reigning, whether it be with Gungans or Ewoks or whatever, sharing power. That's his vision of Star Wars. Sorry for rambling on, but this is just a topic for me that, it's just infuriating to me that people are politicizing Star Wars to the degree where it's us against them, where Star Wars fandom has gone in to become cliques. And because to me, Star Wars has always been one of those things that binded people together. As a kid, all of your friends would talk about Darth Vader or Luke or Leia or whatever. Even in the years where Star Wars was largely inactive, and that being like after Return of the Jedi until the 90s, it wasn't spoken about as much, but when you found a fellow Star Wars super fan, you guys, you clicked. There was something to talk about. And it wasn't, my opinion is better than your opinions. There were no opinions, or there were, but it wasn't so black and white. It was about things that you could things that you could identify with and sync up together and, have a conversation. And a lot of that's just is missing from Star Wars these days. Don't get me wrong. I agree with a lot of the opinions about Star Wars being inclusive and all that. I agree with it. It's just, I don't know. It boggles my mind that people are fighting the way that they are And it makes me sick, to be honest, you know, because Star Wars is supposed to be the thing that binds us together, just like the Force. So, but that's my take on it, and I'm going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to go into the book segment and my thoughts about The Last Jedi. We'll speak soon.
Star Wars figures. R2-D2. Chewbacca, Luke, and Princess Leia. They're the Star Wars Early Bird set of figures. These action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird certificate package, new from Kenner.
Everyone into the pit, Salacious Crumb. The next prisoner, Gamorrean guard. Gladly, Jabba the Hutt.
C-3PO, new Gamorrean guard, and Jabba the Hutt playset each sold separately.
Excuse me, Mr. Hutt. You've captured my friend. Free him and keep me instead. That's a sorry tale, but this tale will make you sorrier. Guard, get the rope. You always get him in the end, Jabba.
Jabba the Hutt playset and other action figures each sold separately from Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection, new from Kenner.
And welcome back to the Force Pod. I hope you guys are enjoying these commercials. I'm actually enjoying trying to find these for you guys, because a lot of them I actually remember as a kid. Some of them I don't. But, I mean, aside from the fact it makes me feel extremely old, I think they're cool. Sorry about the audio quality. A lot of these I'm getting from YouTube, so and they're like third generation tape transfers, so the quality's not the best, but they're interesting to listen to. Now, anyway, during this part of the show would be my book review. As many of you know, I am a huge Star Wars bookworm. I've read probably 80% of the Star Wars books, and I would say that the Star Wars books are one thing that I collect. A lot of people collect toys or lightsabers, whatever. I actually collect the books. Now, don't get me wrong, I do collect some other things like Funkos. I do have a lightsaber or two. I'm a huge Vader fanboy, so I got like a bunch of Vader like Pez dispensers and helmets and things like that. But books are really what I love the most. And but going forward, I mean, I would like to get your input about what books I should review. And I mean that. If you guys have a particular book you want reviewed, then just send me a suggestion to the show. theforcepod@gmail.com. You can leave it in the voicemail line that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But yeah, I want this show to include you guys, the fans, as much as possible. I want your input. So if you guys have a particular book you want reviewed, just say it, and odds are I already have it and I probably read it. If there's no suggestions, the next show I'm going to start reviewing the series Fate of the Jedi. It kind of is embarrassing for me to say that I've never read the series before. I don't know why. I think some of it was, quite honestly, I didn't like the cover art. I know it sounds stupid, but it kind of like put me off. I kind of thought the cover art was kind of generic, so I kind of just brushed the whole series aside. But I've actually started to read them, and I enjoy them quite a bit. I mean, I'm currently into book 3. Generally, I finish a book about every 3 days. So yeah, I'm into book 3. So starting next show, I'm going to start reviewing Fate of the Jedi. Yeah, unless, now, as I said, you guys have a better suggestion. Now, what are my thoughts about The Last Jedi? If you heard my reaction segment that I did on another show, you have a good idea of what I'm going to say. For those of you that haven't, I loved The Last Jedi. I mean, it wasn't a perfect film. There were certain things that I would have changed. But all in all, I loved The Last Jedi. It's probably in my top 4 Star Wars movies. Now, my top 4 fluctuate from time to time, but generally speaking, I mean, I don't see The Last Jedi leaving my top 4, because it was just a great story, and I loved how Rian Johnson changed how a tale is told, basically. Rian Johnson presented things in a different way than George Lucas has in the past, or JJ has. It was a fresh and new take on Star Wars, and I loved it. What did I particularly like about it? Luke. I loved the Luke arc. When Celebration happened, I had, just based upon the interviews and what we did see from the initial teaser trailer, for some reason I got the feeling that Luke was going to die. I didn't want to see it happen, but I kind of felt that it was going to come, and I was right. But I liked Luke's arc where he basically became a recluse after his academy was burnt down and his students were killed. A lot of people have taken exception to that, saying, that's not characteristic of Luke. But Luke is a kind-hearted guy, and he felt responsible for his students' deaths. I can understand why he became a recluse, why he turned his back on the Force, and why he was reluctant to train Rey, because he felt that everything that happened to that point was all his fault. He felt responsible for Ben falling to the dark side. So yeah, I get that, and yeah, I think that Mark Hamill played it masterfully. I think he should have gotten at least a nod for an Oscar, but what do I know? I'm not in the Academy. But I love the Luke arc. The whole Rose and Finn dynamic, I like that. I like Rose as a character. There's really not much that I would have changed about Rose. As I said, I like the portrayal, meaning I like the actress that played her. I like the story. The only thing I probably would have changed was the love arc with Finn. Just because it was kind of sad at the end where she almost killed herself to save him. And I got the impression at the end Finn was more interested in Rey, so you kind of feel bad about Rose. But all in all, I liked Rose as a character, and I don't understand the backlash that Rian Johnson's got, or the actress that played her. I just don't get it. I felt Snoke should have been more. His story should have been told a little more in depth, perhaps a little more backstory. It didn't kill the story for me because, let's face it, in the original trilogy, we pretty much knew nothing about the Emperor, nothing at all. I mean, even going into Return of the Jedi, the only thing we knew for a fact that was he was Vader's master, and that's pretty much it. What else did I like about it? The whole now this is what I did not like. Now Poe, he disobeyed the chain of command and whatnot, and people are saying no, it's toxic masculinity and all that. I disagree with that 100%. I have known a lot of fighter pilots from the Navy and the Air Force, and it's not a masculinity thing. Most fighter jocks have that mindset where they're trained to do something and then think about the consequences of their actions, and that applies to male pilots and female pilots too. It's not a gender thing, it's a pilot thing. So that whole critique I don't really like. But Poe, I don't know, I think the character's played well. I think it's written somewhat well. But I don't know. There's just something about Poe I just don't like. I did like Holdo. I didn't think that her story was thorough enough for The Last Jedi. I think that's some of the backlash that you're seeing on Twitter is because of it. It's just like she appeared in scenes and there was no understanding for the character or no background of the character, so people were sort of confused by it or put off by it. I liked her as a whole. I liked the fact that she sacrificed herself at the end. I liked how she treated Poe, because that's how basically an admiral would have treated a captain that did that. The only small minor thing I guess you could say I didn't like about the character was how she was dressed. You're not going to see somebody in the military, especially a rear admiral, dressed like she was going to Canto Bight. No, it's a little small bitch, but I'm a perfectionist, I guess. But Canto Bight. Now, this is where I can say I would have changed it. Canto Bight was way too long for what it had. Yes, it was visually stunning, but it just took up way too much of the movie. It could have been cut by half. Yeah, it's sad to see the animals abused and the kids and all that, but it wasn't really necessary for the story. The chase scene was too long. I mean, I don't know if Rian Johnson was going for a Jason Bourne thing where you have to have a magnificent car chase, but that could have been cut out. What else did I like? I loved the Kylo Ren and Rey fighting together in the throne scene. I think that is a awesome sequence. And anyone that disagrees with that, I will tell them to piss off, because that sequence was amazing. And I like how Ren finally he fulfilled what his grandfather started. I guess he is now the Emperor. I like that. Even the kid at the end, Broom Boy as he's called. I like that. That's going to be the next generation of Jedi. Whether or not he's in the next trilogy Ryan's doing, I don't know. Or if he's going to play a part in 9, I can't say. But I did like the nod to the next generation of Jedi users. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into The Last Jedi because it's been out for a couple months, and I'm sure you've heard these reactions on all the other podcasts you've listened to. But yeah, all in all, I loved The Last Jedi, and it is solidly probably my 3rd or 4th favorite film. But I mean, number 1, of course, is Empire. 2 is Return of the Jedi. Now 3 being The Last Jedi. It fluctuates with Rogue One. Yes, I liked Rogue One a lot as well. That was a almost perfect spy/war film. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts about The Last Jedi. Now, I can't wait for the novelization, because as I said, I'm a huge book guy. And it's been announced that the novelization of The Last Jedi is going to include a lot of stories that weren't told in the movies, which makes me think that they originally were, and they were going to be cut for time. Which Rian Johnson said there's, I think, another 30 minutes of film that could have been included that he had to cut. But I cannot wait for this book. It's kind of curious why it's coming out so much later than the movie. Usually a novelization drops within a week or 2 of the film being out. So I don't know if it was intentional to wait this long, or Disney wanted to wait and see what the fan reaction was before releasing it, and so they could add things to it. But I can't wait for the book, and that comes out, I believe, in March, with the Blu-ray following in like 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of the Force Pod. This is episode 1. Going forward, the shows are going to be a little longer. I know right now we're at about the 45-minute mark. Going forward, it's going to be about an hour, a little over. Just because I will have proper book review segments, plus co-hosts, and you know how co-hosts are, we get into conversations with them. But in the meantime, if you want to reach out to the show, please do. The email is theforcepod@gmail.com. We can be reached on Twitter @theforcepod, or our voicemail line is area code 315-320-6337. Again, 315-320-6337. And with that, I just want to say thank you for listening. We'll talk in about 2 weeks. And until then, may the Force be with you. Always.